Hey guys, are you passionate about becoming a full stack developer but not sure where to start? Then this video is for you. In this video, let us discuss how to become a full stack developer. These are the topics that we are going to discuss now. What is full stack development? What are the technologies and the frameworks that are used with full stack development? Types of full stack development based on the technology stack, how to become a full stack developer, and then some tidbits about Java full stack development. Let us also discuss about the job trends on the types of full stack development. Let us get started. What is full stack development? Full stack development involves working in both the front end and back end parts of an application. Let us see the technologies and frameworks that are used with full stack development. Front end development, back end development, database and storage, DevOps and deployment. These are the technologies and frameworks that come under front end. Let us see one by one. For creating web pages, it is HTML. For styling the web pages, it is CSS, Cascading Style Sheet. The extension of CSS is SASS, Syntactically Awesome Style Sheet. SCSS, Sassy Cascading Style Sheet, for implementing interactivity and user experience. For example, validating a form. Vanilla JavaScript is used. Together with that, the JavaScript library that is used very often is jQuery. For creating a web application with very good user experience, the JavaScript library React can be used. The frameworks that can be used for front-end application can be Angular or Vue.js. Of course, you know what is the trend. Angular is used widely. Say for example, if you are creating a website or a web application, it should have the capability to be opened in desktop, laptop, tablet or mobile of different screen sizes. So, responsive design ensures that the websites are mobile friendly and adaptable to different screen sizes. This can be achieved with the help of frameworks like Bootstrap or Material. They are CSS frameworks. They also have rich interfaces that can be added to your websites. This is about the front-end development. Under back-end development comes the programming languages, frameworks, database management, API development. In the server-side programming languages, it can be Java or Python or Node.js. They can be used for handling the server-side logic and data processing. Under frameworks comes Spring Boot, Django or Express.js. Spring Boot is built on top of Java. Django works together with Python. Node.js and Express.js work together. Frameworks help simplifying the backend development. Next is database management. Design and implement database systems to store and implement data. Under databases, it can be relational databases or NoSQL databases. Of course, you would have learned about these in your college. What are relational databases? RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. Relational databases stores the data in a structured format. So they are used for structured data storage and management. Example of relational databases are MySQL and Oracle. What are NoSQL databases? Not only structured query language. In case of NoSQL databases, the data is stored in unstructured or semi-structured format. Say for example, the data can be stored in the form of a document or column or graph. Few examples of NoSQL databases are MongoDB, CouchDB, Redis, Elasticsearch. In case of Postgres, it can store the data both in structured format and semi-structured format. So it can come under both categories. Together with that, the query language, the basic structured query language also should be known. The next one that comes under backend is API development, building and integrating APIs that can communicate between the front end and back end application. The next one is DevOps and deployment. When you say full stack development, it is not only developing the code base. There is much more into it. That is the process of building the application, testing and deploying the application in the cloud. For that, this DevOps and deployment is introduced. Version control system, CI/CD, cloud platforms, containerization and orchestration. Under version control system, we have Git, managing the code base and collaboration. Under CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment, there are many tools available. The tool that is used commonly is Jenkins, which is used for automating the build, testing and deployment process. Cloud platforms can be AWS or Azure or any custom-made cloud platform. These are used for deploying and scaling the applications in the cloud. The next one is containerization and orchestration, under which comes Docker and Kubernetes. They are used for packaging and deploying your application in isolated containers. So, when you say full stack development, it is front-end development, back-end development, database, which is a part of back-end development, DevOps and deployment. So, the complete process will be over. Now, let us see the types of full stack development based on the technology stack. Mean, MERN, LAMP, Django, Ruby on Rails, Java stack. Mean, the name itself says it all. MongoDB, Express.js, Angular, Node.js. MongoDB is the database. Express.js and Node.js. Node.js is the server-side JavaScript runtime. The framework that can be used together with Node.js is Express.js. Angular is the front-end framework. MERN, instead of A, it is R. So instead of the front-end Angular framework, we can use React, which is a front-end JavaScript library. Next is LAMP stack. Linux, Apache Web Server, MySQL database, PHP. This is a very old tech stack for full stack development. Linux, Apache, MySQL is the database, PHP, which is a server-side scripting language. Many websites still use this LAMP stack. Next is Django stack. The programming language is Python. The framework that is used to create the backend development is Django using Python. The front end is HTML, CSS. The front end interactivity is JavaScript. Of course, you can create APIs using Django, and then in the front end you can use either Angular or React. So, there is a separate front end and a separate back end. The communication between them is happening using APIs. Next one is Ruby on Rails. Ruby, the programming language. Ruby on Rails is the framework. HTML, CSS, JavaScript is for the front end. Again, here also you can use any JavaScript framework for front end development. The next one is Java stack or Java full stack, which is my personal favorite. For the backend, the programming language is Java. Spring framework, which is built on top of Java. Spring Boot is a tool which helps to create Spring applications very easily. So, Spring Boot is built on top of Spring. The programming language is Java. The framework is Spring. Spring Boot is a tool which is built on top of Java. So, this is for backend. Together with that, we are also having another framework called as Hibernate. When you want to save the data to the database, it can be done very easily with the help of a framework called as Hibernate. ORM framework, Object Relational Mapping. So, all this become your backend part. In the front end, again the same scenario, you can use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you can use a framework like Angular or a JavaScript library like React. In this case also, the front end and back end will be separate. They communicate between each other using REST APIs. Let me just show you a pictorial representation about how a Java full stack application will look like. Here you have a presentation layer, a business logic layer, the data access layer. In the presentation layer is what the user sees, which is nothing but the front end, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular or React. Under backend, the programming language is Java, JSP servlets, which is used for creating web applications. Instead of that, we can use a framework like Spring Under Spring, there are different categories. So all these are part of Spring. We can create REST APIs in the backend application. To connect to the database, we will be using a framework like Hibernate, which is ORM, Object Relational Mapping Framework. Together with that, we were talking about the DevOps that are the supporting frameworks that we need to know. In this case, it is Maven, JUnit 5 for testing, Log4j for logging, Git is for version control. Plus, what is there in the database? You should understand how to use SQL query. The databases are Oracle or MySQL for RDBMS, MongoDB for NoSQL database. So, we have seen different types of full stack development. Which one to choose? Each stack has its own advantages and fits different project requirements. To become a full stack developer, you can pick and choose the tech stack you want to work with, or the programming languages that you are comfortable with, or the job trends for a particular full stack if you are starting from the scratch. Who is a full stack developer now? A full stack developer is someone who can work in both the front end and back end part of the application. Now that you have understood the tech stack that is used for full stack development and the different types of full stack development, let us see how to become a full stack developer. That is, what are the steps that you need to take to become a full stack developer. The first thing is choose your desired stack. Always start learning first by understanding the concepts. I've been doing full stack training in different corporates. What I am observing in the freshers is without understanding the concepts, they are directly jumping into the projects, saying that I have completed this particular project. But if you deep dive into the conceptual knowledge, it is very hollow. So always start learning the basics by understanding the concepts. If it is Java, start with OOPS concepts. If it is Spring Boot, don't directly jump into Spring Boot. First, understand the fundamentals of Spring Framework and then jump into Spring Boot. The next thing is get more hands-on practice in any technology or language you work with. Even if it is going to be a basic HTML or CSS, first try creating basic web pages. Then when you are moving on to Angular, the understanding of CSS and HTML will help you to create responsive websites very easily. So that is the idea. Always start with the fundamentals. Next, master front-end development. If you notice in full stack development, in any technology stack that you are going to work with, you always need a front-end development part. The front-end development part is same for all types of tech stack. The backend of course will be changing. In the front-end, it is going to be the basic HTML, CSS, vanilla JavaScript, then jQuery, Angular or React. Only the framework may vary. Rest of the things are all same. So learn the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript as they are the foundation of front-end development. Every time I am telling vanilla JavaScript. What is the meaning of vanilla JavaScript? You know vanilla ice cream, right? Vanilla ice cream is plain. If you are adding some flavors to it, then you get the appropriate ice cream like strawberry ice cream, chocolate ice cream. Similarly, if you are going to work with raw JavaScript, it is called as vanilla JavaScript. If you want to add some flavors, that is, if you are going to use a JavaScript library like jQuery, then the scenario is different. So that is why they are calling the raw JavaScript as vanilla JavaScript. If I am adding flavors, it becomes jQuery, which is a JavaScript library. Okay. Deep dive into front-end frameworks. It can be either Angular or React, which is a JavaScript library. It is not a framework, or Vue.js. Choose only one. Don't jump into all the frameworks and keep it half the way. Next, learn about the responsive design, accessibility, user experience principles. Already we have discussed what is the meaning of responsive design. Responsive design helps to create websites that are mobile friendly and that can adapt to different screen sizes. So you need to understand that particular part while creating a website. You can pick and choose Bootstrap and Material to add more user experience tools. Gain knowledge on JavaScript libraries, build tools, package managers. In this case, you have Node Package Manager, Webpack, all that you need to understand. So remember, this front-end development is common for any full stack development that you are going to choose. So first, master this. Explore backend development. So first you need to learn the server-side language based on the tech stack that you are choosing. If you are using the mean tech stack, then it is Node plus Express.js, which is completely JavaScript. Instead of mean, they can also create for a full stack application using Node plus Koya.js. There are different JavaScript frameworks available with the help of which you can create full stack development. That is your choice. The most commonly used JavaScript full stack development is mean or man, where the backend part is Node plus Express.js. Next, coming to Python. In case of Python, Python is the programming language. Develop the skill set in Python, then move on to Django web framework, which is built on top of Python. Next, Java full stack. In case of Java full stack, start learning the basics of Java. Get an expertise in Java before moving on to the framework Spring. On top of Spring, you have got Spring Boot. Directly do not jump into Spring Boot. I have seen people jumping into Spring Boot without understanding the nuances of Spring framework. So the flow has to be something like learn Java, then learn Spring framework, at least the concepts of Spring framework, then move on to Spring Boot. Only then you will know what is happening in the underlying part of your Spring Boot application, which is very mandatory when you are going to work in a corporate. Get more hands-on experience in the backend framework. Of course, this is much needed. Even if you are going to work in Java, you need to create basic applications with Java. Say a simple ATM application, a simple calculator application. Try to utilize all the concepts of the programming language that you are learning. Once you have done this, then move on to a web application, be it Django or Spring Boot. Create small web applications to understand the concept of frameworks. Also, learn to convert these web applications into REST APIs, wherein you should know how to handle, authenticate and process the request that is coming from a front-end application. Also, you should learn how to save the data that is there in a backend application into the database. Once you have learned this database part, you should learn to convert your application into REST APIs. Today, the world is moving on towards the REST APIs and microservices only. So, it is mandatory that you are having a good hands-on experience in REST APIs. REST APIs are simple. Why people are moving on to REST APIs? It is something like plug and play. It is not proprietary. If it is a web application, it is proprietary. The front end, the middleware, the back end, everything is going to be a part of your proprietary web application. Just like a desktop which is connected with the CPU, wherein it is not mobile. Everything is connected. But if you are using a laptop, now everything is wireless. Even this mouse is wireless. The mic is wireless. All the things are wireless. It can be used with any other device also. Something like plug and play. Similarly, if I have a REST API in the backend, it can be integrated with any front-end application. That is the idea of REST API. So it is mandatory that you need to know the nuances of REST API if you want to become a full stack developer. Next is integration. Under integration, you need to understand the concepts of routing from one page to another page, handling, authenticating the request that is coming from the front end to the back end application. So, learn to communicate between the front end and back end application using REST APIs. Next, gain experience with databases. In case of databases, start with the basic SQL, structured query language. Of course, you would have learned it in your college. You should know to perform CRUD operations with the database. Together with that, learn the advanced concepts like joins and subqueries. Of course, when you talk about the database, you should know to work with at least one RDBMS database and one NoSQL database. In case of RDBMS, you can pick and choose MySQL or Oracle. In case of NoSQL, you can choose MongoDB, CouchDB, Redis or Elasticsearch. The latest trend is to work with Elasticsearch. Of late, I am seeing certain corporates are asking to teach with Elasticsearch. So, you can prefer to learn MongoDB or Elasticsearch. Next comes the DevOps part and deployment. Under DevOps, already we have seen we need to understand about version control. Of course, you should know about Git. Under Git, you need to know at least the basic commands, how to add, stage, commit your code to Git repository, how to push into the Git repository, how to pull from the Git repository. Together with version control, you should know about at least one testing framework. If it is Java, I would say you can go in for JUnit and Mockito. Mockito is a framework for testing Java applications. It is very easy and simple to learn. Next, you need to get an idea about CI/CD tool. In this case, you can use Jenkins. Though it is not mandatory to have a deep understanding about Jenkins, you should know what is the purpose of Jenkins and how it is working. Also, get an understanding or familiarize yourself with any cloud platform like AWS, Azure or Google Cloud. Though it is not a mandatory step, if you are having a basic understanding, it will be really an added advantage. Together with this, you should also learn to containerize your applications using Docker, with the help of which you can deploy your application in the cloud. Once you have learned all these separately, that is the front end part, then the back end part, then database, then version control, then DevOps and deployment, you can move on to build projects. That is, already you have created a front end project. You are having a back end project. Now your front end application is ready. Your back end application that is integrated with the database is ready. The next step is integrate your front end and back end application. So your project should go in this manner. You have learned front end, create a project in front end. You have learned back end, create a project in back end. Now integrate front and back end using REST APIs. In case of backend, your application should be connected to any database, be it RDBMS database or NoSQL database. Once this is done, you should test your application using any testing framework. Then push your code to the repository using Git. Once all this is done, you can containerize and deploy your application in Docker. That is, you are going to create an image for your application and you can add the image to Docker Hub. This way, now you are having a solid full stack application which will be an added skill for your resume. Other than this, continuous learning. Stay updated with new technologies, frameworks and best practices in the field. So, you need to be in a continuous learning mode. Engage with the developer community through forums, blogs and social media. Attend webinars, workshops or conferences whenever a new topic in the technology field that you are working is popping up to gain your knowledge. Remember, becoming a full stack developer is a journey. It needs dedication, hard work, practice and passion for learning. How I became a Java full stack developer is by practice, 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 practice and passion for learning. Start small. Just as I told, even if you are going to start a server-side programming language, first start with a very basic example of Hello World, how to add two numbers, how to get the product of two numbers, how to get the largest number in an array, something like that. Set achievable goals. Gradually and incrementally build your skills and experience. Good luck on your full stack development journey. If I can do it, you can do it. Thank you.